Hi everyone, welcome to the Coding Channel. Today is the 24th episode of our Java programming tutorial series. And in this episode, we are going to talk about a static and non-static void methods in Java. Listen more when we come back. And welcome back to the Source Code Channel. For today, our source code focus on method. Now, if it's your first time to learn a method in Java, I'm sure the first question that you will be asking is, what is a method? Well, basically, I can give you three important things or description about a method. First, a method is a block of code. Second, method performs a certain task or actions. Third, a method runs only when it is called. Now, let's take a look at this example. These are output statements using print and println. The moment I put this inside of the left and curly braces, left and right curly braces, I can now say that this is an example of a block of code. Okay, that performs a specific task. That is to print out welcome to the source code channel that can be seen in console window, for example. Now, there are two types of methods in Java. The first one is the predefined method, and the second one is the user-defined method that what we are creating right now. When we say predefined, these are built-in. For example, println, main method. These are built-in methods that we are already using a couple of times. Now, the user-defined is written by a user or programmer like us. Okay, so we call it user-defined. Or the one that we're going to do now is a user-defined method actually. Okay, now the next question that you will be asking is why we use method. I can give you two reasons. The first is code reusability. That is to write the code once and then use it multiple times. So that is when we talk about software reusability. Actually, that is the main goal on why we create methods. Second, to have an organized, more readable, and easy to debug code. So that's the reason why we use methods. And the third question is how, and that's I'm going to discuss with you now. So we have now here the code, and we put the curly braces now to consider this as a block of code. So how can we say that this is now a code? Of course, the first thing that you will think of is a name. And that name should follow the naming convention of Java. And that is to think of a verb name, because a method performs an action, right? So you have to think for it to become, if you're aiming to become a Java professional programmer, the first thing that you need to do is to follow the naming convention. Okay, so what this code supposed to be doing? Okay, so it just print out, right? So I can say that, okay, I can name this as print. So that is the my method name. And if it's a method, you have to put the left, the parentheses, to consider that as a method. Okay. Now, after naming it, the next thing that you need to consider is this method print now are going to return a value or will not return a value to the one who will call this, or the one who will use this method. If your answer is you want to have a method that does not return a value, that's the time that you specify void here. So void print. You have now a method that does not return a value when called. Okay, let's go back to my three definition. Again, method is a block of code. We've done it already. Second, method performs a task. Yes, it prints out the welcome to the source code channel. to the console window. And the third one, if you're going to run this, okay, let's try to run this code. And it seems that nothing displayed here. It's because of the last part that I'm discussed this with you a while ago. And that is a method runs only when it is called. Meaning, in every Java application program that we are going to build or create, there should be a main method. Because every time we execute a Java program, the JVM or the Java Virtual Machine, which happens to be the interpreter of Java, finds the main method first before calling any user-defined method. So it's very important that we have the main method. Okay. So let's try to include the main method there. So this time around, we have now the main method and the user-defined method. Okay, what's the difference now? When we run this program, again, the interpreter of Java will find the main method. Always think of this, that we start the program execution at main and we end the program execution inside of main. And this method can only be called once we call it inside of our main method. So that makes I hope that it makes it clear to you now. Okay. Now, if you have noticed that main is a static method, what does it mean? Okay. There are a lot of things to be discussed when it comes to static. But for now, what I can tell you is that main should be a static, or main has been designed to be a static because when the interpreter of Java call this main method, it doesn't need to have an object instantiation just to call a method main. So why? Because every time that we instantiate an object, it generates a space. So when we talk of memory management, it could be better that every time we execute our Java program, it does not create an object. It can uh, call or execute the main directly. So that's the meaning of this. And aside from that, they use static here to mean that this main method belongs to a class, belongs to the basic operation. Okay, now let's talk about the void print method that we have created here. This is an example of a non-static method. Why? Because you didn't see I didn't put any static method there. Okay, so how the question now is, how are we going to call or use this print method from main? Okay, we can simply call it by specifying the method name like this one. Okay, so print and then print, for example. This one is a user defined now. Okay, let's try to run. And as you can see, we have an error. Unresolved compilation problem cannot make a static reference to the non-static method print from the type basic operation. Okay, because basically main method is a static method. And from a static method, we cannot call a method by just specifying only the method name. It meaning there is an additional requirement before we can actually call or use this print method, user-defined print method. How are we going to do that? Okay, we need to instantiate first an object. An object of what? A basic operation by having this command, basic operation or statement. Basic operation, that's the name of our class. And then, for example, let's try to create an object out, our own version, user-defined version out. So basic operation out is equal to new basic operation. Okay, so we normally do this using scanner. Okay, this time it's a user-defined class. We're referring to our class, basic operation. So what we did here is that we just instantiate an object out or create an object out, and then we will use this out method here, out, and then put that operator. Okay, so now we can now call or use the method that is a non-static method from static method main. Okay, if you want to run this, the output is welcome to the source code channel. Now, bear in mind that the placement of the main method inside of our class, uh, it doesn't matter where you put this, at the bottom part or on top of the class basic operation. For example, we put it here. Okay, the effect is still the same. Okay, because the Java interpreter just find this main method anywhere in your program for as long as there's a main method present, so there's no problem at all. Okay, so let's try to for example create another method void. Okay, and then let's make it more specific. For example, we want to print an outro message. Okay, and then like for instance we would just want to have a simple God bless. For example, God bless and thank you for watching. And thank you for watching. Okay, so print outro message. Okay, now how are we going to call that? We have the print outro message. Okay, and don't forget to specify the object name out that print outro message. If you're going to run this one, okay, as you can see, the first output is welcome to the source code channel. Okay, because inside of our main method, the print out method call is the out.print. Okay, and then when the program execution, when the Java interpreter execute this command, the program execution stops at main. Okay, stops at line 41 and will go directly to line number 45 and execute the statements inside of the print method, and then we'll go back the program execution to main. And then that's the only time that we the Java execute the print outro message. Okay, so the program execution stops at line 42 again, and then go to line 51, and then print out the output here and go back to main. So that's an example and only proof that we begin and end our program execution in main, regardless of how many user-defined methods that we have created here in our class. Okay, it's always the main is the entry and the exit point in our program, meaning we begin and end the program execution inside of our main method. So again, this is now the example of a void method, and this is how we call the void from the static method main. And I clear it already to you that the static method meaning that this method belongs to a class. Okay. Now, is it possible? The next question is it possible for us to uh, call a void method not inside of the main method? Yes, it's possible. Let's try to create another. Okay, anywhere. For example, I just have to put here, for example, a print message. Okay, and this code will just only, for example, call this two method, the print and then the print outro message. So let's try to make this a more specific name, and let's try to uh, observe that every time I name or we name the method, the method, the first word should be in lowercase, and then each first letter of each word should be capitalized. So that's the valid naming, by convention on how we name our method. Okay, let's go back to this. We have now the print message method, user-defined method, and void method. Okay, now what I wanted to do here is that I want this message to call the print intro message and the print outro message. So how are we going to do that? Okay, I'll just specify the message. I mean the method name. So print intro message, and then I have now the print outro message. Outro message. Okay, and then from main, I just want to call, for example, this one. I will just call the print message. Okay, I will delete this now. So from main, the main only calls the print message, and then within the print message, it will call the print intro message and then the print outro message. Okay, so when we are going to run this program, when the JVM encounter this statement, okay, again, this is an example of a method call. Okay, and the print intro message, these are the method heading, or we call it as a method definition. Okay, so these are method definition. Okay, we're still talking of void method here. Okay, this is the return type. Okay, meaning that again, our method does not return any value. Okay, so we have method call and we have method definition. Now, what I'm trying to show to you is that from main method, we can call a non-static method. Okay, using a print message. Okay, if we're going to run this one, you can see that the output still welcome to the source code channel. God bless and thank you for watching. So let's try to learn how the JVM execute our code. Okay, first from line 41, as what I've told you a while ago, that Java stops the program execution at line 41. So let's say, for example, I can say that this is a step number 1. And then it will go directly to print message that is located in line number 55. So I can say now that this is now the step number 2. Okay, and specifically here, I can put here step number 2. Okay, step number 2, the print message now call the print intro message, and then we'll display this one. So this is now step number 3. And then after printing, the program execution go back to the print message and again execute the another method call. So I can now say that this is this step number 4. And then step number 5, execute this statement. Step number 5. And then we'll go back after printing, the program control go back to print message. And since we don't have any more code here to execute, the program control now will go back to main. So I can now say that after step 1, okay, we are now on the step number 5, which is to end, since no more lines of code here to be executed. So that's how the method, user-defined method, works in Java. Now, another thing, since we are talking of in our definition of method, that first, again, it's a block of code that performs a specific task and that can run only when it is called. So I've already explained you that. Now, what if we are going to prove that we can now reuse this code, because that's the main reason why we use methods, right? Why we create a method to reuse this code. Okay. Now, for example, we have a new class. Okay, I have a new class, and then I will reuse the intro message that we have created in a basic operation class. Take note, we are now talking of the two individual class here that still belongs to the same package. Okay, now let's try. For example, I just wanna prompt the user to enter what? Or let's say I just wanna use it. For example, the how are we going to call the intro message, for example, this one. Okay, how are we going to reuse it? So can we just specify by just using print intro message? Okay, then semicolon, for example. Okay, let's try to run. Okay, there is an error. Okay, the method print intro message is undefined for the type basic2. Okay, because when you specify a method name like this, okay, you mean that this intro message can be found inside of the class basic2. Since we are calling the print intro message method, which is inside of the basic operation method, and also bear in mind that we are calling a non-static method. Our um, solution is to instantiate an object. Okay, so for example, basic operation, I use also out here is equal to new basic operation. We need to instantiate an object first and precede it with the object name separated by that. So that is now, we have now the out.print intro message. If we're going to run this one now, okay, and if you see this output, it only proves that we now reuse the method that we have created from the other class, which is inside of the basic operation method. So that's how we use the void method. Now, let's talk about a static method before we end. Okay, how are we going to create this? If it's a static method, you just have to put, for example, a static keyword there. Okay, that makes a method now static. That makes this method now print intro message belongs to a class basic operation. Same thing as main. Okay, now if from main method, if main will going to, for example, use this print intro message, we don't need to create or instantiate an object of basic operation class. Okay, we can call it directly by specifying the method name. And what is the method name? That static method now, the print intro message, for example. Okay, so this is now how we do it. If from static main and we call a static method, for example, print intro, okay, we can just do like this, and still we get the we have this output now. Welcome to the source code channel. How are we going to access from another class? Okay, we are trying now to access the non-static method. Let's see. Let's try to make this as a comment, and then let's prove that we can also call that one using this one. Again, this one has an error because we cannot call directly the print intro message method, which is located in another class. Okay, but since this time the intro message is a static method, we don't need to instantiate an object. All we need to do is to know the class name of that particular method. Because since this one, the print intro message, belongs to a class, a basic operation, we can call that, or we can use that without, again, creating an object. We can call it directly by specifying the basic operation class separated by that. So this is now how we call a method call. Okay, this is a method call to a static method. Okay, so that's the difference of calling a non-static method to a non-static method versus a static calling a static method. Okay, let's try now if it really works. Okay, we compile and then we run. And there you go. Welcome to the source code channel. That's how we call the static method. And that's the use of static method in this example. Now, another thing that I want to highlight is this. Since we have created or we make this a print intro message now as a static method, uh, from a non-static method, can we call the print intro message now? For example, I want to call the print message. Okay, I will comment this one. Okay, I am calling from main method the print message, which is a non-static method. Okay, and we all know that the syntax of calling that is by having this, by specifying the object name and then the method name. Okay, now what I'm trying to say is that from print message, which is a non-static method, can we call the print intro message by having only the method name here, since the intro message now is a static method. Let's try to run. And the output is, okay, welcome to the source code. God bless and thank you for watching. Okay, so there is a difference. Since print message is a void method that is an instance, okay, we can call this now, this void method. These are instance method of class basic operation. And from void method, we can actually call the static method without specifying its name, since this one is, even if it's a non-static method. Okay, we need to instantiate it if we are calling a non-static method from a static method main. But from non-static to static, okay, you don't need to instantiate an object. That's what I'm trying to say here. Okay, now next is there are methods that have parameters. Like for instance, if we want to, let's try to add another here. It's still a void method, and I can call it, for example, you know the add even problem. Okay, so if you're going to create a method name for that, okay, don't just say add even. Okay, add even, it's a noun, right? But if you put, for example, let's say print add even, it makes sense now that this one is an action word. Print is an action word, add even is a noun. So print add even, okay, we follow the naming convention, right? Okay, now for us to print the add even, we will be needing a value coming from the user. Okay, so we can now specify here, okay, we can put a parameter or arguments here. So int, for example, number. Okay, so meaning once you specify this, this is an example now of a formal parameter. Formal parameter. There are two types of parameter actually. The formal. Okay. Normally we put the formal parameter within the main head. I mean a method heading. So print add even. Okay. Now, how do we solve the print add even problem? For example, we have we need to display, so system.out.print. Okay, I can directly use it by specifying, for example, number percent sign 2. Okay, this divisible by 2, so we can say that that is an I mean even number. Okay, and then I can say that another option is add. So this is an example of an if-else statement. So if it's your first time again to encounter this, I already discussed it in one of our previous episode. We call this again as a ternary operator using the question mark sign and then the colon. It's like an if-else statements that when this condition is true, okay, for example, if number mod 2 is equal to 0, okay, so execute this statement after the question mark if it is true. Else, execute this statement. Something like that. Or print this statement since we are now inside of the print statement. So instead of using if else here, I can just make just a one-liner statement by having the ternary operator. Okay, as simple as that. Now, I'm going to use this to reuse this. I have to compile this one. Okay, and then I'll try to use that here. Okay, for example, I want to prompt the user to enter a number. system.out.print, for example, enter a number. Okay. And then enter a number. And then by using the scanner object, scan, so scan dot next int, for example. Okay, then I'll just have to put this inside of a variable, for example, number. I have a number also here, so I have a local variable here. So int number is equal to scan next int, and then I will call now the this method, okay, void method. So I will bring back this creation of objects. Okay, I'll just comment this one because I will just only okay, I'll just use a basic operation, and then for instance this one, how are we going to call? So out dot print add even. Okay, so that's how we call the non-static method print add even. Okay, so that's it. Let's try print add even. There is the method print add even in the type basic operation is not applicable for the arguments. Okay, it's because, take note, that's a very good error. It's because this time around we are calling a print add even with a parameter, meaning every time we call this a print add even, it expects a number to be passed on to this variable. So we will pass the number here. Okay, and this is now an example of a method call with an actual parameter. Okay, method call with actual parameter. So that's the syntax. Okay, we are passing now the user input to the print even method, and then when we pass that, so we have a variable, a local variable number here. So that is then the difference of formal parameter and then the actual parameter. Okay, and then we'll just use this number and then divide it by 2, and then if the what do you call this, the remainder is 0. Okay, so we will just print that number is even, for example. Okay, so that's it. So we can have it here. Let's try to add, for example, number is even. Try to have here number is add. Okay, run, and then let's try to run this one. Okay, so welcome to the source code channel. Enter a number, for example 5, number is add. So this is how we call a method having a parameter. Now, just to wrap up our episode, in this episode, you've learned what is a method and why do we need to use method, and the types of methods in Java, and that is the predefined method and then the user-defined method. And also, you've learned how to create a void method and how to call that void method from a static method main. And you've learned also the difference of static to non-static method. That when we mean a static, it's an instance method wherein every time we call it, we need to instantiate an object of that class. While if it is a static method, meaning how do we differentiate static to non-static? If you see a static keyword there, so that is a static method, and it only means that that method belongs to a class, that you don't need to create or instantiate an object of that class before you can call or use it. So, and also we've discussed how to access that method, to reuse that method from the other class, and also the void method having a parameter. So we've talked about the formal and the actual parameter, how to use it. So that those are the source code for this episode. And that's all for today. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And as always, show your love through comments and favorites. God bless and thank you for watching.